Hi, everyone. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. We're welcoming you, Vicky, and I don't see the other person, but I know there's one more person. Laura, welcome. All righty. So we are really thrilled. We're delighted that you have accepted our invitation to be part of our Student Connectedness Project, and where students are welcome to be learners, leaders, and co-designers. We're going to the next one. Yeah, good, good. Okay, so together we have explored, and this is our fifth session. We have explored the areas of connectedness that dealt with how making a school a place where students want to be and they feel connected to. In one of the areas is connecting to an adult, another one connecting to peers. The last one we did was connected to a purpose. And today we will concentrate on the fourth area of connectedness, which is connecting to a welcoming space. What we're going to do today, what we're going to do together. So we're going to be reflecting on how being in a welcoming space or welcoming spaces, as we talked about several of them, strengthen our sense of belonging, agency, and connection. We're also going to be consider how your peers, and we usually have students on the session too. So that's you're going to notice that as we go through the session. And others can positively contribute to create that environment, the environments that we mentioned, that we have experienced, that we have shared. And ultimately, we're going to do an update. So where is your team in the design process? And again, this shows like when working with our students, that's where we were going to go. It's like, where are you guys? What have you discovered? And that's sort of thing. Following that on the next slide, we're going to ask you to please have the utensils or write utensils that you may need, a pen, paper, a computer, anything that would help you capture notes. And then I have a piece of, we can call it peripheral information, but I think it's good to know. So overturning long-held beliefs that painters were exclusively male, over 75% of handprints in European cave art were created by women. And that's just for you to know. We can move on, Greg. What is research saying about the topic that we are focusing on today? What is research saying about welcoming school environments? And we shared, and you're going to see it too in the resources that we have used, that studies published in 2023 under the sponsorship of the U.S. Department of Education. The title of those studies are Guiding Principles, a long one, Guiding Principle of Creating Safe, Inclusive, Supportive, and Fair School Climates, found that welcoming school environments contribute to better academic, social, and emotional outcomes. And then intentional practices such as strong relationships and inclusive and safe spaces help students thrive. That's what that study, share. Then we also have another one that was published by Getting Smart, and it's titled The Cost of Innovation: Why True Transformation Requires a Sense of Grief. It basically tells us that innovation, if we want innovation to last, to be durable, in what innovation in what areas will be like grading, schedules, testing models, learning models, then we as leaders of the schools, the ones that are implementing these new ways, new innovative ways, must make it explicit that the old ones are ending. So we do have to identify that loss. So in creating that neutral zone where we're just rolling out new initiatives, right? Well, what happens to the old ones? We have to explicitly share that with folks. In another one, by the way, another thing that was mentioned is we stop being the fountain of knowledge to be the architect of experiences by doing that. And by doing that as well, we will eliminate that sense of disengagement that teachers may experience as you're introducing something new without what happened to the old thing, right? And it also, it will eliminate the resistance that sometimes we get when new innovative things are presented to the faculty. Another study was published for Getting Smart as well, and it was so your district wants personalized learning. Where do we start? And so that is really, really interesting because it emphasizes the student voice and choice and explore what takes for districts to move from aspiration to action. The piece encouraged the leaders of the school to begin with a clear vision for learners. That's what the beginning point is. So not to in align what you already have in place. So not to immediately go to those tools and programs that are brand new, but really align what you already have. Ready. So what else is research? And then it keeps going. So we're going on to the next slide where we're actually going to see that this doesn't only happen in the US. It can go global, this research about welcoming spaces. So a survey data from thousands of British students found that 14-year-olds report much lower engagement with schoolwork and the relationships compared with 11-year-olds. And that's exactly where our own CDC data points. So similar patterns amongst American teens. So there you have what research says. We're also then going to say, okay, so how, in the next slide, how are we putting that research into practice? And at this point, I am going to invite you to watch a video where we're going to hear from a student, what is the welcoming space and the ability to really take risk does to, how she, she is a junior at that point, how her experience as a freshman went. So the idea is that his name is Alex Adelman, and he's the principal of the Green School in Rhode Island. And what he has decided is he and his team have decided that they wanted to have something different happening when the students come in. And they said, okay, it's a simple message. These 2 days are for you to explore the campus, to find your classrooms, and get to know your teachers beyond just their names. By the end of the experience, students not only know practical things like where the restrooms are and lockers are, but also who they can turn to when they need help. They also meet the upper class who volunteer to guide them, answer questions, and help them get settled into school life. So overall, the school has done this incredible work to create this welcoming space from the very beginning. And then also reinforcing it, but inviting the upper class to be part of this planning and delivering of the 2 days that that the students take at the beginning. Okay. So we can go on to and then you'll have the chance to listen to one of the students who is now a junior. Actually, this year she's a senior. So who tells about her experience as a freshman. So anyway, so we know that what we call the three well-being indicators, agency, belonging, and connectedness. How does that play into what research says in the welcoming space? We know that your choice and your voice matter, right? And so in creating then you using that to help create a welcoming space, you're part of it. Your students should be part of it. In belonging, we belonging answers to I matter, we matter. So therefore, belonging grows through positive relationships, creates safe spaces, and one of the most important thing, it reduces isolation. When I know that I belong, I'm part of something. I don't feel alone. So isolation is, diminished by, having that sense of belonging in the school. And overall, it's connectedness, right? So connectedness is what makes us feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And we do that just like the video that you're going to be able to see it on your own. And we try to show you is what the Green School has done, right? Share experiences, create a safe and welcoming space. And so we can move on to the next slide. And so I'm inviting you to recall a time when you were in a place that felt welcoming to you. So hold that it's in your thoughts. It doesn't have to be a school. It's any place that you felt welcome in. How might you describe it? and how did it make you feel? And so I'm going to begin. I'm going to model this one. When I think of a place that felt very welcoming to me, especially as a brand newcomer to the island of Guam, I took my morning walk and I saw these ladies doing hula in one of the pavilions. Mind you, this is, I just got to the island. And I was like, I wonder. The first day I walked by, the second day I walked by, and the third way I had a little more. So I'm gonna see what is this about. And so it's just the way that I approached them, right? One of the ladies that was sitting on the bench, the other ones were doing their hula dance, and I said, how do you become part of this thing? And then she said, "Oh, you just come in and dance." I said, "Yeah, but I've never done hula. Just got here from Baltimore, Maryland. I don't know." She, "Oh, you don't have to." And then she literally just, held my hand and said, "She just, I can show you the first moves." And so to me, it was so, so welcoming, right? She didn't even ask my name. I told her I just got here. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland before I got here. And immediately she says what the dates of when they're there, like the times. On Saturdays we do this, on Sundays we do that. And so it made me feel like immediately as if I first of all I was curious, right? That's really what drove me there. I knew I didn't know how to hula. But I was curious and know that it was a physical activity. It's out there in front of the ocean, all the ingredients for a wonderful, welcoming space, right? But then it's also the people, the human piece of it, the human part of it that makes welcoming even better, right? So that was my experience. Who would like to go next?
Well, I'll jump into this, Maria.
Go ahead, Greg.
Um, in addition to my career here at Hopkins, I had an additional side career as a vocal musician, a choral singer. And every time that I walked into a rehearsal with the people that I sang with, just walking into that environment, knowing that I'm going to see people that I love and care about and that love and care about me, even when I had maybe a really bad day at work, I could always look forward to going to that space and feeling welcome and joy and acceptance and belonging, as well as making music with these people, which I thought was so incredibly joyous in my life. Um, and I can now still recall on those rehearsals and those experiences, even now that I'm not singing anymore, which makes it great even beyond just the that experience. Um, so I'll go and call on Michelle.
Thanks, Greg. So, for those of you who know me, I am going to say my abuelita's home. So, my grandmother's home, right, made me feel so loved, so seen, so valued. It was the smells. It was the comfort of knowing where everything was in her home, knowing like seeing the pictures, right? The sofa, the doilies on the table, like all of those little things that my grandmother had in her home. Was probably the best feeling I've ever had in my whole life and carry with me quite frequently. So that was the welcoming space is my abuelita's home. So I will call on Vicky.
Thanks, Michelle. I know we're supposed to be talking about with people, but I think one of my most welcoming things is when I come home from a trip or when I'm like even gone for the day and I come home and my border collie's waiting at the top of the stairs and she's so excited to see me and her tail's wagging and she's got this unconditional love, whether I'm in a good mood, bad mood. She's just so excited to see me. And I think that's one of the most welcoming greetings is that unconditional love that an animal can have for you. So I think they're great examples of connection. Um, I will pass to Saskia.
Hi, thank you. I guess I actually am thinking more of like a place again that's not the people, but a summer camp that I have gone to that's on the Oregon coast that has just this sense of like peace and joy and just walking into the lodge, the space, like I just get this like sense of community. And that's like an important feeling of welcoming because of all of the like community gatherings that have happened there.
And let's see, I think Laura. Jerry, would you want to go next?
Sure. So a welcoming place for me is a place that I'm headed to this week. I am headed to a dear friend's who is just like a pseudo mom to me. And whenever I go there, I know that I am accepted just the way that I am, the way that I show up. And I just have to be me. And that feels so, so good just to be able to be in a place that you are always welcome, no matter the time of day, no matter what you might have to offer to them. They're just it's a place where it's like a bonus mom for me. And I know I will be welcomed and loved this week when I get there. And Laura, would you like
Yes.
to go next?
Yeah, sorry, they were working on a printer. Well, there's so many other like many situations where I actually feel welcome, and one of the main places is here at work. Pretty much, we have in our office, our bosses pretty much as long as we're doing our job, they stay out of so it's a welcoming environment to me. Here me and my coworkers here. Um, because like we all get along and it encourages you more to do things, to get things done, to go out there, to go do home visits, to go to the schools. And ours are main schools that we like to go visit is where you feel welcome. Um, so there's like I say, that's on a workplace kind of environment. When I was a school resource officer, as a police officer, I like to go to all the schools where I felt that welcoming, and it inspires you. The way they talk to you, the way they receive you, the way they welcome you inspires you to do out of the box and do more than what you are expected to do. That's you know,
Thank you so much.
opinion.
Thank you
You're
all for
welcome.
sharing. If we can go to the next slide. So when thinking about all those experiences that we share, right? The the sense of support that you feel, the fundamental human needs of being valued, your voice matters, you matter, the welcoming space, the feeling of acceptance, all that, right? All that, if we can now apply that to the schools, what we're going to get is those three predictive indicators, such as attendance, right? If you are going to go to a place where you have that welcoming space, then you would get higher attendance rates, right? Less number of days that the kids miss. Same thing. If we have students who are attending a welcoming place, a safe, a supportive environment, right? If they experience that, we typically will have less disciplinary issues like bullying, fighting, and even substance abuse. Students who feel they belong and they are in a safe, supportive place, they're also going to have an improvement in their grades. They'll perform better. They'll do better in general at school, right? That's sort of like the logical thing, the logical consequence of having that safe and supportive, welcoming space. If we can go to the next one. So the question that we may ponder about is, so do students at your school experience a welcoming place? But even more, can we go to the place where you don't have to answer that question? I just want you to hold it there. But imagine that every classroom in your school was a welcoming space? What would we see happening differently?
I feel that when students feel welcome into every classroom, they will be eager to participate and their attendance will improve, their grades will show it. And also there will be more opening with their peers and their teachers. And that will be like communication with their administrator or security. And if there's an issue or anything like that, it'll be easier for them to open up and talk about it because they feel that they are not going to be judged or, point the finger. That's, that's what I feel.
Oops. Thank you so much, Laura. Right. There wouldn't be any judgment, right? It will be that ongoing communication. You will see kids talking to adults in that ongoing. Anybody else who wants to share? What will you see happening differently?
I would hope that it would spill over to the home so that families can feel connected and engaged. So if a student is feeling welcome, they're going to come home and talk about it and share with the family. So it would hopefully increase family engagement, which would also increase attendance, behavior, all the course, all the course connection and such, all the ABCs.
It would almost be an extension, right, for the parents of knowing what's going on in school, what is happening. Thank you, Vicky. Anybody else?
Well, I think it would give students an opportunity in that welcoming, safe environment to perhaps more easily and more confidently approach a teacher, for example, about what they may not be understanding in the classroom or about the subject. And also from a personal level, if they have personal things going on, the same thing with an adult, or more importantly, feel connected to a student that they could go to and communicate about either a problem they're having with a sibling, a friend, or the course itself.
Thank you, Greg.
This made me think of, pardon me, reminded me of the dual capacity building framework for school family partnerships, Dr. Karen Vapp's work. And the idea of like one of the process, I just pulled up the framework, but because the relational trust, like mutual trust, like that's a condition underlying the welcomes that we've been describing. Like if we don't trust that we're going to be seen for who we are, we're not going to feel welcome. Like, and so then under that trust, there's like a respect and like valuing of everyone that has to exist. And that's in this day and age in every place does not exist. But and that's why kids don't feel welcome. That's why people don't feel welcome, like obvious. So that's like I think that it just reminded me, I'm like, oh gosh, I want to reread the dual capacity framework. I need to refresh myself with it because it's like such good frame to bring to the work.
Awesome, Saskia. Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? So I'm going to add just one more piece is that's the sense of abundance as opposed to scarcity that we can bring in any interaction in any setting. And I think it would contribute to feeling like, it will be different, right? If we think it's not that we're missing that, it's like, what do we have that we can make it work? Where can we go to make it work? What can I contribute, as an individual? And I guess that's moving away, I would see that, the moving away from scarcity to abundance.
This was the place that Michelle and I are co-leading. And as Maria shared, It was our hope. We have a couple of groups of kiddos who are engaged in the Student Connectedness Project, and they're in New Mexico with Michelle. We have students from the Health Leadership Academy and also Explorer Academy, and those students could not be with us today. And so this is the place that we were going to ask them just where they are in the Design Sprint Challenge. This place is, for kiddos to think about, and they have. So they've already started that process of thinking about ways that they might engage in a design project at their schools to help other students feel more connected to the school. And so what you see on this slide is you see that flower, right? So we do design thinking process, and we do it with looking at who we are as the designers. So our kiddos have been looking at themselves through that notice and reflect. And you'll see in the corner, it talks about liberatory design because it's really important for us to lead with the equality of voices so that students really feel valued, heard, and empowered. And so if we move to the next slide, as you see this flower, each of the petals of the flower are described as far as students gaining empathy, so understanding the perspective of the students at their schools and gaining multiple perspectives. And so, Michelle, you might be able to talk a little bit more about this, but we do know that at Health Leadership and Explore, we have kiddos that have been looking at student surveys. They've looked at data so these are the students themselves are really trying to gain that perspective of others. They're doing that by looking at student surveys, looking at those culture and climate surveys that are given in their schools. And then they're beginning to engage in focus groups. So they are gathering a variety of students throughout the school together to, they're co-creating and crafting some questions to ask those students about the focus groups. Michelle, is there anything you would add for that gaining of multiple perspectives?
Yeah, sure. So they're also doing empathy interviews, right? And they're really focusing on who is impacted by what issue. So this is this piece. So they've done some brainstorming and thinking about the question was, how might we design a way for us as students to feel more connected at school to address some of those ABCs that Vicky talked about, those attendance, the behavior, the course completion or acquisition, and also like those foundational pieces, right? The agency, belonging, and connectedness. And so, how might we make students feel connected? And so, they're going straight to the source with some of those pieces. In the next step, you'll see the defining piece, like defining the challenge. So we also have another school, Robert F. Kennedy Charter High School, that is also participating, and they started looking at attendance. So they were given the attendance data and they looked at it and they determined, wow, in the beginning of the year, it was our freshman females that were not coming to school. Now it looks like it's our sophomores and juniors, like what's going on. And so they're really designing a process to determine like how might we help students feel connected to school so that they come to school? And how do we make those relationships stronger? And they're coming up with a really cool prototype as we speak. And so they've done a lot of that ideate, building on each other's ideas. And that's probably my favorite part, seeing students and seeing teams really come into this piece where they imagine and dream what can be possible and they think big and broad. And I always say, if you had no money, if you had no limits, what would be your ideas and what's your ideal state, right? So that's where our students are so far in the challenge.
And there's just such a great sense of hope because it's the how might we. So when they actually get to that place of define, and that's where those kiddos will be who are doing the focus groups, is then they'll think about it's almost like a root cause analysis, right? They're going a little bit deeper to into their system to really find something that they can create a project for, and the how might we. And so that was what Michelle's talking about. They're putting their ideas together, and it sounds like RFK already has a prototype, so they might be a little bit further than a couple of our other schools who are still engaged in those first few pieces of the design thinking process. And then if they've got their prototype, Michelle, they're probably ready to try it and then do a
Yeah,
little
they are. They're
reflecting to
testing it
see
and
what
learning.
works,
Yeah.
see what works and what doesn't, and then start building on the part of what's working. And so this just continues to describe those stages. And this is what we would be asking the kiddos, just where they are, where their team is. Thank you, Michelle, for being able to tell us where RFK is. And we know where our health leadership friends are, and they're ready to try out those ideas.
And I think one of the things that we typically stress with our students and with any teams that we're working with in the design process, so it's not just with students that we've collectively worked with school teams, is that there's not like a wrong way. So every step is everyone's at a different level, everybody's like at a different space, everyone comes with so many different creative ideas and ways to share their prototype. So if the people are just starting in a space, it's okay. It's a human-centered design process, and that's what we really like to emphasize, that all voices are heard. There's really not a hierarchical. Everybody's on the same space. So
The next steps for our teams is we're going to hold some office hours on March the 25th. First, students and their teams to interact with us if they have any questions. We do have a virtual showcase that's coming up on April the 29th. I think we're still waiting for a definitive time for that virtual showcase, right, Michelle? Is that correct? And so if they have any questions just about that virtual showcase, and like Michelle shared, people will share wherever they are in the process. It doesn't they don't have to be finished with prototyping or trying out their idea. They can just share where they are in their journey of the design thinking process. Do any of you have any questions for us though about that piece of the process and the project?
I think especially
Vicky,
for Vicky and Saskia that you joined, this is your first time joining us. Know that the recording of the previous sessions are available if you wanted to go back and review them. If you have any ideas how you're going to use it or when to go, that's entirely, up to you. And when I said we're delighted that we have new people, we truly are. I know Laura joined us last time, and so good to see you, Laura, again. And that we are available. Our email addresses are right now on the screen. We are available when you want to connect. If you want to do do you want to work with students, collaborate with them to do something around connectedness. In other words, we're saying that none of the steps, that any ways of entry into the project are wrong. Everything is open and it's welcoming. So whenever you want, we're here. We're your support.
and we'd love to see these lovely people and educators on the 29th. If you have an
Absolutely.
opportunity to see what the students have done, I think it would be great for them to have you participate and be there with them.
and if you want just some thought partnership about how you might engage schools in each of your respective states in this process, it can be started at any time. We started this in January with a group of students that we're working with right now. Sometimes we do a year-long cycle where we start in August, September, and go all the way through April or May with different teams of kiddos. So happy to do that with each of you as you think about how you might bring it to schools in your state. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to hear your voices.